That's the sound of me prepping dinner with Reynolds Wrap. And the sound of me not doing dishes. And the sound of my family having more time around the table.
Easy prep, cook, and clean. Make time with Reynolds Wrap.
I like the sound of that.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Erik.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi,
Dave. We're back. We're at no AIC 120 this week. We got a little surprise, little full length episode on an off week.
Yeah. No news is good news.
Oh,
for everybody.
There will be news.
Yes.
In this episode. There will be some new news. So for those of you that are unaware, we would be rapidly, as this episode airs, we would be rapidly approaching New York Toy Fair. And if you haven't heard at this point, New York Toy Fair has been canceled. So at New York Toy Fair, the press, the toy makers, the marketers, it's basically closed to an industry event, but it gives in a lot of instances the press access to people in the toy industry and gives us a chance to talk to them about the things that they're showing off and getting ready to send out to retailers in the coming months. So today is kind of like our replacement for that with a couple of our friends from Jazwares. Did I get that right, Dave? Is that I feel like I rambled a little bit.
You might have, but that's okay. I think you've already kind of unburied the lead. So I just think I'm going to let you go on.
Perfect. So Fortnite continues to be an immensely popular franchise the world over, and its presence in the toy industry is larger than ever. Returning to the show to walk us through what's new in the world of Jazwares Fortnite action figures is friend of the pod and senior business development manager at Jazwares, Mike DeCamp, and first-time guest, Jazwares marketing director, Enrique Ruvalcaba. Enrique, Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we really got to work on getting Mike a jacket now at this point. He needs an Adventures in Collecting members only jacket or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so here for this.
Yeah, this is you're just setting records. This is your fourth appearance on the show.
Yeah, and let me just take a moment to congratulate you guys on all the growth and all the hard work that you guys have put in. I mean, it's the one of the few things that's kept me connected throughout this pandemic, and I always look forward to see what you guys are up to next. So congrats on all the growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. So, Enrique, since this is your first time on the show, we're going to format this a little bit differently than we do our normal episodes, only because this is kind of like we want to get that Toy Fair vibe. But before we get into the new product stuff, tell us a little bit about what you do at Jazwares.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me on. And I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've done a few shows here and there, and so it's always super cool to touch base with the community, and I love talking action figures, and I've been doing it for a long time. I worked at Jakks Pacific, I worked at Mattel, and I've worked on some of the biggest brands, Batman, Warner Brothers, WWE, and now obviously I'm on Fortnite. So as a director of brand, I mostly oversee the strategy of the product line, sort of, what scales are we going to make? Mike and I work together on sort of what outfits we're going to put out. I work with retailers on setting pricing. Are we going to do vehicles? Are we going to do play sets? I travel a little bit here and there and pitch, to all of our partners. And obviously we work very, very closely with Epic Games and our agent, IMG, who sort of works with the both of us. So a little bit of everything, but mostly, the brand strategy overall.
Well, once again, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on and excited to get your perspective, on what is one of our favorite product offerings. So we're really excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so jumping straight in into the brand new Micro Legendary series. What was the thought behind introducing a 2.5-inch scale line?
So one of the things that I like to reference often is, as somebody who's been in the action figure world for a long time, I like to sort of understand where we've been and, where we're going. I think one of the most sort of, and it's not just me, right? It's like everybody in the world, everybody who's a fan of action figures knows that what Kenner did way back was revolutionary and sort of, at the time it was all 12-inch figures, right? I think you could even probably call them dolls back then, the G.I. Joes, right? And so when Lucas came out with the movie, they thought, hey, how are we going to do all these awesome vehicles, TIE fighters and X-Wings and everything? And so they decided to shrink down the scale. And that challenge sort of still exists in our world. And so Fortnite is such an awesome world, such an awesome universe, and it's so big. And it literally just doubled in size this last chapter, right? Like literally the world flipped on its head. And now there's this whole nother, almost universe to it. So it's a big, big world. There's cool sort of environments, POIs, vehicles. There's the Colombo dinosaur now / monster. So how do we do like all these really cool things? Well, we got to take our scale down. So, we're going to keep the awesome articulation that we have and great deco. Hopefully you guys agree out there that we do some of the best figures, if not the very best figures in the market. And so they're going to stay awesome, but we're going to go down a scale so that we can do bigger, cooler things.
And for me, like, this is such a throwback to like Mask that it's like, it's awesome. I was immediately kind of all in when I saw these, or when we Mike had mentioned these, and then I see them, and now I have like I have Carbide in my hand right now. These are unreal. Like just what they do, the sheer joy I have just kind of putting him in different positions and getting him in different spots on my desk is super cool.
And thanks for picking them up, you guys. It's been really exciting as they start to hit shelves and penetrate the market to see, like, you guys are definitely tastemakers in the community, and as you guys adopt them, word spreads, and I can't wait to see 4 months or 6 months from now what the photography community is doing, because I love my massive figures, and I love some of the even bigger things that have come out over the last 12 months. But my stage is only so big, I can't fit all that stuff in front of my camera. So to have this new micro scale and have it upholding that legendary name, they're sculpted by Dave Cortez. So the hand is the same as the former 6-inch line. We've got the best and brightest. Like, the team has exploded from the days when the line started. So, we've tripled our amount of people on this team. We have really great new people in leadership positions like Enrique, and they're all just like fans, So I can't wait to see what you guys think of what's next too.
It's always been fun watching across the lines. So whether it's the whether it was the now retired 6-inch and 7-inch legendary and brawler series, or the ongoing 4-inch series, and now that this micro legendary series, you can really tell that these figures are a labor of love, because they're doing things that are not common for both the scale and the price point, frankly. And that's showing, and that was showing the shelves show that too, right? Like, there has been, it was almost like a shock drop, to use an old Fortnite term, that these came out and now they're gone. Like where we saw them on shelves for like a couple of days after the initial drop here in New Jersey, where Dave and I found them at Targets that were about a half hour away from each other. They're now gone. Like you can't find them. So whether it's the Flush Factory that people are finding at Walmart, which we'll get into that a little bit later, or the the actual figures themselves, I mean, they're now cleared out.
And that's definitely a blessing and a curse, because we want everybody who wants them to be able to get them and to experience them. But as far as initial reads, that's great. But now it's really going to come down to the challenge of supply chain that everybody's talking about, to make sure that we're, balancing our strategy and making sure that we're hitting product in the right places where people can find it.
So aside from, this being a new scale and kind of all of the play possibilities that are now opened up by shrinking the scale down, you guys all also introduced the loop breaker moniker that is showing up on some of the packaging. Can you tell us a little bit about why, or frankly, what that term means and what separates those skins from the others?
Yeah, so Fortnite's been around for a little while, and it's been amazing. Right. My son's been playing it for a long time. I've been playing it for a while. And there's been so much excitement around the brand, and there was no toys for a while. So when we first put them out, it almost didn't matter what characters we did. It was a bit of a frenzy, and I think we were either the number one brand that year or for sure in the top 3. We were just blowing out like crazy. And so what we did from a character selection perspective is we just kind of put out awesome figures, not a tremendous amount of sort of like theming. As we go forward with Micro, what we decided to do differently with Micro is go in more chronological order. So the figures that you see out there right now, if you've got a sharp eye, you'll notice they're from Chapter 1, Season 1, 2, and 3. And so we might keep that exact same cadence, but regardless, we're going to go sort of in order. So we're going to go Season 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, et cetera, et cetera. So the loop breaker is our opportunity to sort of not miss out on really cool outfits that the community wants, So the first one we did was Zero. And so he's not necessarily from Chapter 1, right? So the moniker Loop Breaker allows us to sort of cheat, if you will, and and just put out like really cool characters that are not necessarily in linear order.
Gotcha. So it's not a question of because I know some of the kind of the community's response to it. I mean, the Fortnite community is a very passionate one. Immediately, people are thinking like, is it something that has to do with the comic? Like they broke the loop, so they're off the island, and like they're trying to tie in, or is it like a rarity thing? Like the loop breaker ones are going to be more rare than the other ones. It is purely a way to kind of break the timeline without breaking like the release schedule effectively.
Right.
Which already goes into answering the next question, where we've seen these early characters in the product offering, and will we see some of the newer characters kind of jump the line as like a loop breaker, like a Cube Queen or a Shanta?
Yeah, it's so funny. We're talking about the Cube, and Mike and I just maybe a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were working on something for Walmart, and that was an exact idea that we pitched to them, was Cube Queen with a, buildable cube in scale. And it was really, really cool. I loved the idea. It was all Mike, by the way. And so we pitched it. Ultimately, I'm not sure if it's going to go forward. But to answer your question overall, absolutely. I mean, I think you'll see more of the newer characters, just again because of the strategy of sort of going in chronological order with Micro. You're going to see more of the new characters sooner in the 4-inch line. Obviously, again, we love the Loop Breaker, and it doesn't have to be, like one per wave. We can fudge, here and there, and there's always con exclusives, and there's, different international exclusives and different ways to get out a Loop Breaker that somebody really wants. So, I'm particularly interested in, the 7 and the Foundation, and maybe that's an opportunity. So yeah, I think that the answer is for sure. We can definitely look for some of those really cool outfits that are out now.
So while we're kind of talking about the characters that are on deck, and something that we've kind of alluded to several times now is that Fortnite introduces so many new skins and variants of old skins on a weekly basis. So in terms of character selection, do you guys get just out of curiosity, do you guys get like an advanced look for Epic on things that they see as a particular merchandising opportunity? Like, I think of like the skins that like, have become kind of like household skins for Fortnite, whether it's, Peely or Meowscles or, or Tomato Head, right? Like the ones that have become, kind of iconic. Do they ever give you kind of like a heads up, like, hey, we have this one that we think is going to be really cool? Or is it really like, you guys see them and then, then you kind of have to mobilize around them?
From my standpoint, I think that Epic is just one of the most tremendous partners we've had in Jazwares history. So there's been many opportunities for us to collaborate with them since the line began. Of course, as business grows and as their business grows, those opportunities are a little bit harder to come together with just because of scheduling and COVID and everything over the last like 2 years. But they're amazing with letting us know when something's really popping off. Now Enrique works very closely with our partners at IMG, who kind of quarterback conversations between us and Epic, when scheduling gets challenging. So yeah, it's a very open two-way avenue. But it's also fun to try and wow them as well. Like we like to demonstrate our expertise in the game and our knowledge base of the game. So that's also really fun, is to try and walk in a room and wow their creative team too. So it goes kind of both ways.
So I'm gonna push you on that one. So when was the last time that or can you think of an instance where like you got to walk in and be like, yeah, like look at this toy that we created based on the assets, like how awesome is this thing?
Yeah, totally. I think the one where our paths crossed kind of like with a lot of whatever buzzword you want to kind of put on it, like synergy or anything like that, was the Chapter 1 box set. Like we understood that to be a very, very high caliber opportunity for Jazwares because we were offering an exclusive figure. We were getting to lean on our tooling catalog a little bit. And at the same time, their creative team had basically the same idea. So we both kind of met in the middle, and I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome, And even more recently, the Loop Breaker title was something that we had on our sketch pads and in our drawing board. And it wasn't until the latest chapter rolled over when there was an idea that there's actually Loop Breakers in the game. So there's these really great moments. And there's been a few.
That's awesome.
So we've seen the Flush Factory playset spotted in Walmarts. Fortnite is, of course, known for a lot of wild locations on its ever-changing map. What other places can we expect to see, whether it's in the Micro series or represented in the 4-inch line?
I think that, that's a really good question, first of all. Thank you so much. But it's one of those questions where I sort of want to, flip it a little bit and kind of ask, you guys, obviously, you, Dave and Erik, what you would like to see. And also, the community. There's so many. Yeah. So one, like I mentioned, Fortnite is such an awesome world and their POIs are so iconic. You get kind of both sides, right? So some fans think, I love Tilted Towers. Why did they take it away? And then other fans go, dude, the map hasn't changed in a year, So there's different perspectives on it, but there's so many cool locations that we can do. I would love to know what you guys, and I mean that, like everybody in the community, what would you like to see? I personally have always been a fan of, when I used to drop, like right in the middle, either the agency or the authority. Like to me, those would be such amazing play sets. I love the whole Midas, story arc and the bosses of those seasons. And it was so cool, with the moat and the helipad. And I just think that it would translate really well to a really cool playset.
Ooh, I like this. I think, what I think would be really cool? Like modular IO guard locations. Like where you kind of get like the little outbuildings, maybe like and again I'm thinking specifically in the micro line just because I feel like it's kind of like made for instances like this where you can have like kind of like build your own IO guard station based on like the pieces that you have, because like each one is a little bit different, and maybe pack in like an exclusive IO guard. Like I think that would be like a really fun set. And I also really like on the new map, I like the I'm still remembering all the names of all the locations, but I like the it's like the dirt racetrack.
Oh yeah, I love that. Chonker Speedway.
Chonker Speedway. Yeah, I think that would be an awesome set because like just to like getting like the cars on the big monster truck wheels and stuff like that. Like those are things and play items that really outside of a micro scale, like outside of that the 2.5 inch scale, it's gonna be really tough to like scale up and make that. But I feel like now that we're down to this scale, like all of these new possibilities, I feel like are here.
What about you?
Yeah,
Kate?
like I usually hop into like the Joneses or Sanctuary, or even like on the last season, or the last chapter of the last season, the Convergence was a great place to drop into too. But even now with like the Clombos, even dropping into like the desert is cool.
Yeah, those guys are so cool.
They're adorable.
Yeah, just throw berries at them.
Yeah, it sounds like, you guys hit it right on the head, and Erik, to your point, this is the backbone of creating a micro line, as it uncorks all of these possibilities, and it will be tremendous for us to hear from you guys, because that's one thing that we always want to do is be ear to the ground and listening and have our finger on the pulse of what the community is looking for. And it's been amazing. Like if you look at the Flush set, when you get one in your hands, Flush Factory was a massive POI, but we were able to kind of distill it down to a few really key components that allow you to fill in, the gaps with your imagination. And just totally off the rails. Like this is not indicative of any of our future plans, but I would love to do the Ice King's castle and the dragons, like the Devourer, with his big eye and stuff. So these are the things that just, it really, I hate to say uncorks again, but it really unpacks a lot of the possibilities of doing all these fun things.
I feel like too, if we don't mention it, he's going to kill us. But if there were additional play sets and points of interest, I feel like the Butter Barn would have to be high up on the list. Otherwise, Yuma is gonna flip out.
Yeah. Oh, the Butter Barn would rule.
Yeah, it's so crazy how something like man cake is even a thing. But like, it's just the greatest character
you mean
design.
a spaghetti western stack of pancakes
with the butter bandoliers?
I saw just this morning. I forget what the title was, but like it was something along the lines of like best birthday ever, and somebody's mother made them a cake, like an ice cream cake, that was in the shape of a stack of pancakes with a face on it, and it was so funny. It was man cake, and yeah, people just resonate with that kind of stuff,
The only thing that's better than a stack of pancakes that happens to be a cowboy is the skin variant where the stack of pancakes that happens to be a cowboy has a mustache.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that's on the cross sell for the micro line. Is
I
the
was
cake
gonna
with
say,
no
yeah.
name. We've talked about kind of putting the question out to us, and by the way, once this episode airs, I will absolutely put a post up, and we'll collect wants from the community for you guys. We will absolutely do that. We'd be happy to do it. With kind of both the micro line and the 4-inch line, we've seen kind of these new vehicles and accessories, the new pickup truck and the new race car and the big rig and everything. Are there more vehicles than what we've seen already, and more accessory packs on the way
For the 4-inch stuff?
For just in general, for the 4-inch stuff, for the micro line?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can't really tell you which ones, but yeah, it's a certainty, definitely.
Fair.
Yeah, I think so. In the to Mike's point, right, with the 4-inch, we've done a lot, and including recently, our reboot van, which did pretty well, and then I believe right now we have the mud flap out there, so we've done a lot in the 4-inch line. So we've done Whiplash, and we've done the bus, of course. So with micro, we're just starting. So, this is another one where maybe we can, get some feedback. But so, no, we could do it one of two ways. What we decided to do early on with micro is kind of divert a little bit. So we don't want to put out the exact same vehicles, in both lines. So we're sort of, taking a slightly different turn with micro to do different types of vehicles. But obviously, you got to do, the classics. We were talking about Chonker Speedway and whatnot. Like, there's so many cool things. To the accessory point, though, I don't. We did do like loot boxes and crates before, and chests.
Yeah,
and those ones didn't necessarily. They weren't our best sellers. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of like pure accessories. But I think we're going to do more accessories in the multi-packs that we're doing. So we have a really great opportunity right now. And I mentioned, one of my big things is I work with all of our retail partners, Walmart and Target and everybody else around the world. And so they all want something kind of unique, different. So you're going to see a lot more. This is maybe for the next question or maybe the previous question, but you can see a lot more variance, but also variety and accessories in the pack.
Yeah, and speaking of which, that 4-pack, I definitely picked it up with Cuddle Team Leader and Peely, and a bunch of accessories in it. It's a great entry point to get in because you're basically getting a squad and multiple people or multiple characters to pose with. Are there more of those different varieties of multi-packs planned?
Yeah, I want to shout out, and I would love to hear obviously more from Mike, but before he goes, I just want to, tell everybody out there in the community, if you don't know Mike, he is the absolute man. He knows his stuff. He comes up with the greatest ideas. over the past few weeks and months, he and I have been working pretty closely on this exact thing. Like, how do you do, you guys were talking earlier about the different sort of styles, like Skull Trooper is one that comes to mind, right? So you've got like regular Skull Trooper, you've got inverted Skull Trooper, you've got purple, you've got the gilded, there's so many different versions. And that works out nicely for us, because we can get those characters out quicker because we don't have to tool, from scratch. We can sort of like borrow pieces and sort of, do a little bit more of a slightly easier execution. So Mike has come up with some amazing multi-packs. It's good news, bad news, because some of those are going to be UK exclusives, but you're going to see a lot of cool variants coming out.
Yeah, we refer to Mike often on Instagram as our favorite toy mad scientist, because the stuff that that we know he's responsible for, that he's very quiet about, is way more than he often gets credit for. So it's we know what you're up to over there, Mike.
Well, it's been a really, really great experience having Enrique come in, and he's so full of knowledge and a long career in toys where he understands the value of strong themes, and he'll just say like, all right, well, tell me more or get me more. And we just sit there and kind of just dream stuff up like constantly. So it's been great to have his support in those exercises, because they'll ask me for, a certain X amount of strategies, and I get, I'll shut myself in all weekend and just be here dreaming up like, oh, well, what if,
And now, a word from our sponsors. And now, back to the show.
Well, like we said at the top of the show, New York Toy Fair is usually our chance to get kind of a look into the future. And while that's not happening this year, we did get some press images from the London Toy Fair, and we saw a lot of the new stuff that's hitting the shelves now. The new line look for the 4-inch line, which, by the way, the new packaging looks fantastic, guys. Awesome. And we saw the micro line. We saw some things that are coming to the micro line in the future, perhaps like a particular food truck. But we did also see the master grade subline coming to the 4-inch line. Is there anything that you can tell us about that? Because outside of the images, I don't think there's any information out there.
Yeah,
breathing intensive times.
This is gonna be a tricky one. Let's see. So look, here's the deal. You guys have been doing this for a long time, and these shows, especially these days with COVID, they're even more closed doors than they were before. So there's not supposed to be any photos or images coming out. But, every once in a while there's a leak, and it does get out there. And so I think that, what's there, I've seen the images, and it's a little bit hard to see, what's out there. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that, yes, we are going to be doing a master grade series. And this is an opportunity for us to sort of, if you don't mind, tout how great Jazwares is. We do so many lines other than Fortnite. We do Pokemon and Halo and a whole bunch of AEW, UFC, really cool action figure lines. And so we're dedicated to making Fortnite not only a great, toy line that represents Epic Games and the Fortnite game in a really great way, but just amazing action figures. And so, when we sit back and we think about what does it mean to be a master grade figure, and how far can we push the envelope with a 4-inch figure? So what you're going to see in the master grade series is you're going to see us push the limit of what it means to be an action figure. And I know that's maybe a little bit lofty, but, let me give you just some potential ideas, right? So in the game, in Fortnite, they have so many cool skins. like the one that just comes to mind is Galaxy, right? So Galaxy literally has a galaxy in the chest. Mm-hmm. So, and there's like stars and like, how do you recreate that? It's kind of like a lava lamp, you know, it's kind of weird. And there's reactive skins, right? Where the more kills you get, the sort of more deco, if you will, or graphics appear. So we're looking at how can we deliver those experiences in an actual toy, you know? One of the things that we're looking at, again, can't promise anything or get into any specifics, but when I look back again at history and I look at some of my favorite action figures, one that like always jumps to my mind is Moss Man from Masters of the Universe, because he was flocked, right? And you could feel the fuzz, you know, like a little chia pet. And so, you know, like in Fortnite, you know, you've got Cuddle Team Leader. Like, what if, you know, she's a bear? Like, what if she had flocked skin, you know? Again, not something that we're necessarily going to do, but that's how we like to look at the Master Grade series. It's like, how can we most accurately recreate the amazing, like truly cool outfits that you see in the game?
Now, are these for the most part, these Master Grade figures, are they going to be on the same kind of body with like the same kind of articulation that people have expected, you know, or that people expect from the 4-inch line, or is that also going to be something that's enhanced for the Master Grade?
You know, Mike could probably speak more to the technicalities of getting the product put together. I think that the answer is yes and no. Just from what I know, certain technologies do require, you know, limited articulation. So just imagine, right, we're making a toy that lights up in the chest or something. All of a sudden, maybe he doesn't have a waist, you know, articulation. So sometimes we'll have to remove 1 or 2 points. But in other opportunities, man, I almost gave it away. But one of the very cool figures that you're going to see in the first wave, you know, has different sort of assembly, if you will. It's hard to talk about it without really talking about it. But yeah, so I think you're going to see both. I mean, Mike, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you're going to see very soon. And the challenge that we've put upon ourselves with the Master Grade series is to treat each outfit specifically and design around that outfit's the things that make it beautiful or the things that make it special. And so you won't see a carbon cut articulation pattern across all figures. They do in scale and in faith, you know, marry into the rest of the 4-inch line, but each one is treated like a piece of art, you know. And it's an opportunity that's grown throughout the company with the inclusion of, you know, the big brains of JP, you know, Jeremy's willingness to get behind out-of-the-box experiences and collaborating across other brands with like Gregory Mitchell and Magic Almos, and really putting the best and brightest minds that we have at our disposal behind like each individual character, and putting something like Master Grade on them, I think really typifies the philosophy that we're putting into developing these guys.
So what are the some of the challenges that you guys face without the ability to have key touch points like a New York Toy Fair? And what are you doing to compensate for that?
That rips my heart out, man. It really does. I mean, it's for guys like us. I mean, Enrique has been in the business, you know, as long as I have. This will be my 22nd year, I think. It's like being detached from my family, you know, even all the way down to some of the people that just work at Javits. You know, I've been seeing them time and time again, year after year. I haven't traveled to Hong Kong now in going on 3 years. It's my favorite city on earth. You know, I'm gutted by not being able to be there and interact with people. And that's not even, you know, speaking to our friendships and the friendships like our friendships. So it's taken a lot to figure out alternatives, and you know, jumping on this podcast with you guys is a Band-Aid and an alternative, because and we're thankful to you guys for stepping up and putting this together and breaking your schedule to make time for us, because we have a very tough job ahead of us if this is going to continue,
We posted, when we heartbreakingly posted the news that New York Toy Fair was being canceled again. Some of the comments were like, "Oh, well, the virtual stuff is great because it shows people who normally don't get into Toy Fair. It shows them more transparency. It feels like they have more access than they would have had New York Toy Fair occurred as it would." And it's tough because having been Dave and I obviously are first and foremost toy collectors, and we enjoy toys, but having now done this for 2 years and having been to a toy fair and then having now 2 years where we haven't been to one, I know it sounds silly, but like they're toys, they're meant to be held. Like they're meant to be looked upon. They're like there is something about being in that building and like going into the Jazwares booth and going behind a secret door into the Fortnite room and being face to face with the people that are making the products and like seeing them and like when you showed us that battle bus for the first time, like now it's been on the shelves for like months, so like people are like, okay, like it's the battle bus. But like when we saw that 4-inch battle bus for the first time, we're both sitting there, or actually Frank was with me. Dave was not there that day, but like we're sitting there with our hands over our mouths like, oh my God, I can't believe that they pulled this thing off.
Yeah, there's that level of awe to it where it's like, yeah, you can get, you can think that a picture of a render is really cool, and it is, because you're seeing the evolution of what's happening. But there's just something about just seeing the physical presence of that figure or that toy there, where it's just like, wow, this is that's the first time you see it. Like you can't,
there's nothing that replaces it.
There's nothing that replaces it. It's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. There's so many cool things. You mentioned sort of like, they're toys, they're meant to be held, they're meant to be, gazed upon and played with and stuff. And it sounds a little silly. I still play with by the way, I have a lot of my figures from when I was a kid. Like I have my 100 muscles in a bag in a box somewhere. And, I bust them out and I still play with them. It's so cool. And even for me, and I'm sure this echoes with you guys as well as Mike, but I'm like a kid in a candy store at Toy Fair. I remember a few years back, actually, man, time flies. Maybe it was more than a few years back, but at Licensing Show, which is a very similar show to Toy Fairs and whatnot, I saw Stan Lee and just walking on the floor. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, it's Stan Lee. And I ran up to him and like I shook his hand and I said, hey, can I take a picture? I'm a big fan, and it's just like, there's no way to replace anything like that, and I know only a limited amount of people can actually, enjoy those kinds of shows. But let me tie it back into product a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a little inside scoop here. We're talking about New York Toy Fair, and one of the things that we like to do, as manufacturers is sort of like put out kind of like a thank you, to the community. And we do it in various different ways. Sometimes we'll do like a fan's choice, or like vote on this or something like that. For this particular show, we developed an exclusive micro figure to sort of, one, commemorate the show, and then two, sort of like create buzz and news around our micro segment. So I can tell you guys and all you fans out there and listeners and whatnot, keep your eyes and ears out, because very soon, in the next probably sometime this month for sure, because we're February 1st, but sometime this month for sure, keep your eye on social media. We're going to be dropping that exclusive that was supposed to be given away at New York Toy Fair we are figuring out a way to get it into your hands. So, keep your eyes and ears out.
Awesome. Definitely looking
Very
forward to
cool.
that. Well, with that, I think we're going to head into some Q&A. This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at 106 Main Street in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at chubsywubsy.com. That's CHUBZYWUBZZY.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you. So, once we had officially locked in this time with you guys, we posted a post out on our social media asking if any of the Fortnite fans out there had any questions for you guys, and the response, no joke, this is the best response we have ever had to a Q&A in the history of doing the Q&A segment on this show. So thank you to everybody that asked questions. I wish we could get to them all, but we picked a bunch to ask. These are all really good questions, and we're really excited to get them answered for you guys. Dave, would you like to take? Actually, you know what? Because I see what the second one is. I'm going to take the first one.
All right, fair.
All right. So at Bat2472, which, by the way, Bat2472, this kid is he's a 16-year-old kid in Canada, and he does some of the coolest Fortnite renders I have ever seen. He sent us one that he was working on, and I thought at first he was sending us a leak of something, and I was like, sorry, man, we don't post leaks. But it was something that he had, an original thing that he had created. Definitely check him out. He's super cool. But with that, he asks, are you considering making more plush lines? Something like the Klombo would be an amazing plush.
Well, E, you want to take that one? First off, let me just say,
I was excited for you to take it.
Shout out to the Batty Boy. He actually helped me set up my Discord server. So I know exactly who you're talking about. He's a great kid, and he's extremely creative and gifted. So yeah. Over to you, E.
I think, what's so funny is you guys were talking about how cute, in a cool way, right?
Yeah.
The Klombo is, and I think the world sort of at the exact same time had the exact same thought, was like, this is perfect for plush, and so we thought of it right away. Whether we'll be able to do it is a little bit tricky. It is something that we're working with Epic on. They have concerns, about doing too many plush items because they don't want to be perceived as, too young. But we think this is a home run.
Yeah, and
agreed.
I think just between gentlemen and your audience here is that Klombo is something that could work in plastic as well. There's a lot of strong playable features that could go into something like that. The trick and the tricky part with something like Klombo is we don't know how long it's going to last. Mm-hmm. Sometimes these things come in and out of the game at lightning speed, and for us to commit to something this early in its life cycle with Fortnite is just a challenge.
It's crazy. You never know what's going to stick. With the game, you really never know what's going to stick.
And I mean, what's cool is Klombo, even when he's chasing you down when he's angry, is still adorable. So it's
very, as they say, right? It is a very toyetic character.
Very toyetic character.
Yeah.
So friend of the pod at Yumabooma asks, are there any plans for blind experiences with the 2.5-inch microline?
Yes and no again. Epic has a very particular stance against things being truly blind. So you saw it early on in the line with the llamas and with the accessory packs, where there is a blind experience, but everything has to be sort of labeled and categorized. So what everybody wants is the purchase decision to be easy and fulfilling for, everybody who's investing into the line. So it's tricky because they're not generally, and gaming in general are moving away from things like loot chests and loot boxes and stuff because of the gambling type of overlap that they're not 100% comfortable with at all times. So it's a tricky one.
All right.
Do you have anything to add to that, Enrique?
No, I think you nailed it, Mike. I think to sort of maybe pivot the question just a tad, I do think that, we want to do more, I guess you could call it an unboxing, and maybe it's not truly a blind pack, as Mike says, because of the way the relationship is. But I do think that there's opportunity to create, an experience where you can, go to retail and buy a little box of something and still have an experience. We are definitely looking at that.
Well, I mean, like you guys did the llama, where it said what was on it, but like you had this kind of compartment thing where it's actually busting open the piñata, and then everything is individually bagged, and like you don't know which bag you're going to get first. Like there definitely is an unboxing experience with those that I think is kind of like blind box adjacent.
Right.
Exactly. Well put. Shout out Yuma Booma.
Yeah, Yuma Booma. What a guy. Our next question comes from @Malgus Prime. Are there any lessons that you guys learned from the 6-inch Legendary and Brawler series that apply to how you move forward with the 4-inch and 2.5-inch lines?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was such a mold-breaking experience for Jazwares to produce, this caliber of figures that the Legendary series and eventually the Brawlers became. And there's no way to move forward, I think, with any decision on any other line that won't be seen through the lens of all of the ups and downs of what the 6-inch Legendary series and the Brawlers were.
Another friend of the pod, Khalil, @Caster's Corner, asks, FNT0645 Fusion was the last figure in the old line for the 4-inch figures, but he never seemed to hit anywhere for retail and now asks a pretty high amount on the aftermarket. Is there any plans to get him back out for a wider release?
Well, that's really great feedback to hear. It's tough for us to track how far things penetrate, I think, from our POS data and all of the different types of sales reads that we're granted, as manufacturers. So to hear that and to hear community members like Caster's Corner really lobby for things like that is a big help to us. Within the 4-inch line in particular, and some things that Enrique highlighted earlier with the micro line, is we partner with our retailers in really meaningful ways. So we offer a lot of exclusives that sometimes end up in the UK only or end up somewhere like Australia. So we do have the opportunity to kind of repackage that item or offer it in a squad like later on in the sales seasons or in the sales year. So it's great to hear those feedback moments from somebody like Caster. He's such a huge supporter of the line. He's one of the first always like breaking news and giving a lot of positive feedback on things. So we can't help but listen.
Yeah, huge shouts to Khalil. He's one of our best friends out there.
For sure.
And to that point, Mike, I mean, we're always telling people, don't be afraid to comment. Don't be afraid to like leave feedback, to let, to like kind of like let it out if you're having a hard time finding something, or if it's not getting to you, or because it's the way that the toy community works on the internet now. Like people are watching. Like, people are reading. I've said it once before on the show. Actually, I've said it more than once. I'll say it again. Like, I promise you, the people who are behind these toys are engaged. So, like, let us know, and we'll make sure that it gets in front of the right eyes.
And to come at us with an item number like that, I mean, you start saying FNT, and I go to check my email. I'm like, oh my god, here we go. Like, that's the language of the people who really care, and it means a lot.
Next question. At It's Lewis Nelson asks, what are the chances that a skin that has so far only been featured in the now retired Legendary or Brawler series shows up in 4-inch or Micro? Would love a 4-inch regular Meowscles.
This is exactly the kind of feedback we want. We talked throughout the show a little bit about how expansive the Fortnite universe is, and there's so many skins now. And we do have, like, as a fan, right? Like, you asked me, and there was actually a question a little while ago about, do we ever get heads up from Epic about what's coming? And I can tell you, obviously, they know what's working, from a popularity perspective online, and we don't necessarily get a lot of insight in that way. But I'll tell you this, we were coming out with a series for the winter, and they said, hey, maybe you should swap that. And at the time, we didn't know what that was going to look like, so it was literally just a line on an Excel spreadsheet. And it was like, what the heck is a polar peely? So yeah, there's so many, and then obviously it came out and we saw it, and it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that
there's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So is there room for Meowscles? Absolutely. Is there room for more Pewlies and more Triggerfish and Fishies and, Skull Troopers? Of course, we're, as long as you guys want it, we're going to keep making it.
So follow up, I literally just thought of, do you see any, especially for the skins for characters where it's like it's a different color scheme or anything along those lines, do you see an opportunity for like a Chase style figure?
Oh, I like that, Dave.
That is a great question. And let me see if I can answer that question. I'm looking at...
We're old school style collectors. Like, we love a good Chase variant. Like love a good Chase variant.
Well, you know what? Let me say this, and I don't know if this will actually answer the question, but let me just say that, I think I like, obviously talking to big fans, and people who know the industry, and I think we're all sort of collectors at heart, I'll tell you this. I also worked on Squishmallows for a while. I went with my kids recently just this weekend to Five Below. We bought a Bumblebee. And in the car, my daughter noticed that the wing was upside down. And my gut reaction was, holy smokes, that's going to be worth a ton of money. And it was so cute, right? Because it's like this little butterfly wing, but it's upside down, and this stuff happens. So is there an opportunity to do, variants? Definitely. And chasers? Absolutely. That's something that's like near and dear to my heart, and I know it's a double-edged sword because by definition, anything that's limited edition, not everybody's going to get their hands on, and so we want to ride that line very carefully, where we do really cool, collectible, valuable items, but then, sort of balance that with keeping everybody happy with what they want.
At Critical42 asks, have there been any skins/characters you'd love to make but haven't yet been able to, and why?
Yeah, there's always, everybody has their favorites, and everybody has, something that like really excites us about, because there's so much variety, and I think we're approaching 1,200 outfits or something introduced since the game started. So I definitely had some grails, but you see them in that first wave of micro. We have the recruit, Love Ranger, Wukong. Wukong has been something that I've wanted to get made in every scale. He's just, like I said, Hong Kong is my favorite city on the planet. I've spent a lot of my formative years in China, and the Monkey King is just something that really resonates with me.
So good.
So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities like that. There's some stuff that's like, for whatever reason is just completely bonkers, and if I don't know how I would even suggest it in a meeting and have anybody even entertain the thought. But yeah, there's definitely there's a few that got away, but you'll probably see them in upcoming waves too.
Well, that's one of those things. When I saw this question pop up, I was thinking like just kind of trying to think of like the most outlandish ones I could think of, and think like just from an engineering point, how challenging they would be to make, only because of just like the structure of the actual figure, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Fish Stick was a challenge. His legs are so skinny and his feet are almost non-existent, But
the brat.
Yeah,
I still don't understand how you guys got that figure to where it can stand.
Well, I definitely have to shout out the creative team. Like the designers on this line are always with their A game, And sometimes it's like a well-oiled, playbook that they go by, and sometimes it's like a lot of late nights, and these, some of the people on the engineering side and in the China side, they all just constantly bring their A game on this lines.
All right, and our last question for Q&A here. Friend of the pod, and let's be honest, friend of the toy community writ large, at Preternia asks, the 12-inch line continues to see releases overseas. Is that line continuing, or are we just seeing the runoff at this point?
Yeah, that's a bittersweet one, for us. 12-inch figures are, not only cool and affordable, but they're extremely popular worldwide. They're not as big in the US as maybe they are in other markets. It's in a bit of a no man's land right now. We are definitely, done manufacturing the 12-inch line. Maybe, it's something that for sure I would like to see continued. It's beyond our rights, so it's something that Epic would have to figure out. But yeah, hopefully, it continues. We're not selfish and, want to keep everything at, 4-inch or micro or anything like that. There's other scales that we know are super popular and people want to continue with. So hopefully it's something that they can, push forward.
There you go. I'm sad to bring that answer, but I'm glad we have an answer for it. So yeah, definitely bittersweet.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so you guys have survived the Q&A. That's it. You made it through.
All right.
Congratulations.
Not
Congratulations.
bad. Some tap dancing, but we would love to. I mean, I would love to just take my hat off and let it all fly, but
listen, we understand. We
a victory crown for everyone for surviving the Q&A.
Right.
Yeah,
yes, and there you go.
I just want to shout out everybody, friends of the pod, people that I haven't met yet that submitted questions. Thank you. It's what really makes the machine move forward, and to know that there's so many people out there passionate and thinking about the decisions that we make behind the scenes every day in really meaningful ways means everything.
Well, thank you guys for making yourselves available to come on the show and talk about some of these things. As we had kind of talked about, off air, when these micro figures dropped, there were a lot of questions. People had a lot of questions, and I know that some of the questions that we've seen both in the Q&A and honestly the questions that were kind of made up of the bulk were from or made up the bulk were from questions that we had either seen or received after we started posting pictures. So thank you guys for helping get the information out there. But before we let you go, tell us, where can we keep our eyes peeled to get the latest information about Fortnite? Where can we follow you guys? Let us know where we can find the information on the interwebs.
Yeah, let me make a couple of. I just want to make sure fans out there kind of know what's happening. So I mentioned this New York Toy Fair exclusive. Keep your eyes and ears open for that. Make sure to visit GameStop. We've got something very cool dropping there, and it's going to be a very rare figure. So you're gonna have to go there often and maybe have to elbow a little bit here and there. But something very, very cool coming very soon. I think by the end of this month. Obviously, Micro's dropping. It's going to be at Walmart starting probably. So, we talked a little bit about the Flush Factories being out there, but figures, I think they pushed back their planogram set. So I think in the next couple of weeks that'll be out. And we've got more stuff coming from Solo, what we call Solo, but basically our 4-inch single packs. Cool kind of variants. Maybe we can come back once you guys know what those are, so we can talk about kind of what the strategy was there too. But lots of cool stuff coming. Keep your eyes open on. Obviously, we have our own Jazwares social media, but we also partner with Epic. So just kind of, and obviously, podcasts like yours, and just keep your eyes and ears open. And there's more cool stuff coming.
Yeah, I definitely want to second that. We produce so many figures, different scales, and we're constantly working with Epic to get these things, blessed and concepts like figured out and everything. So sometimes, like in the instance of the micro, our marketing falls a little behind because of whatever it might be, rush approvals on the new sculpts and the decos and everything. So follow Jazwares. That stuff is going to start hitting the airwaves like briefly after this podcast airs. And it's just one of those things where like you guys said earlier, a few pieces hit the market, but there's a lot more following that. It's going to be a very long train. It's going to have a long tail. So our marketing and announcements and everything will be lockstep with what you're seeing on shelves soon. It's just in this instance, we were caught a little bit off guard by how quickly the product actually made it to the shelves. So kudos to Target. Shout out to them for doing an amazing job of getting stuff, into the ports and out of the back rooms and into the hands of everybody who is waiting for something new. But, and thanks to you guys for helping us get in front of the people with the questions and put a little bit of those concerns to bed, like as quickly as we could.
Well, as always, it's a pleasure having you guys on, and
yes, thank you so much for coming on.
And we've said in the past, Mike, and now Enrique, we'd absolutely love to have you back on. If there's once there's more new stuff to talk about, let's do it. Let's come back and do some more Fortnite chat.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azzari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both on our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.